Hello, my dear Franken friends, and welcome to Spookyou, your one-stop shop for all things ghastly and ghoulish. I'm your host, Barnabas Vixen, and my, do we have a tasty assortment of tantalizing tales for you today. Handpicked by our very own Weavers of Woe. Guaranteed to send a chill down your spine, or your money back, so it's non-refundable. But enough teasing, because you're here for the stories, aren't you? Well, without further ado, allow me to pass the reins on over to our vivacious voiceover virtuoso, Trey Falco, for the first of tonight's spooky stories. And I'll be seeing you real soon. That is, if this doesn't spook your eyeballs out first.
First of all, some background. I'm 16 and have lived in a small town south of London my whole life, and behind my house sits a small wood, big enough for a few hours walk, but not big enough to get completely lost in. No small rivers, lakes, or ponds, just a small wood. This is where my issue comes in. Someone or something abnormal would be found within some time. So let's start. A couple of years back in my primary school, we used to go on cross-country runs and jogs quite often for our sports lessons. We would always stay as a class with one teacher at the front and one in the back, making sure no kids get lost. Now, I'm not athletic now, let alone when I was that age, so I always stayed at the back with a friend of mine just talking at the back. This time, we're walking particularly slow and we're able to slip behind the teacher only by a couple of feet. About halfway into the run, we can either split off left, which will take us back to the school quicker, or we can go right, which goes around a little longer, but we'll eventually meet up with the original path. Being in deep conversation with my friend, we hadn't noticed that we'd fallen away from our class, and we weren't too worried as we knew our way back, and wanting to continue our conversation, we took the right path. After walking for about 10 minutes, we came to a clearing in the woods, one that we didn't recognize by the time we had noticed that we weren't where we were meant to be. We were in the middle of the clearing. At this point, we were petrified, but one thing pushed us over the edge. 3 people walking towards us from the tree line. They were slim, at least 7 foot tall, with long, thin, bony arms, and only a glance at these creatures and we ran in any direction, screaming our heads off. The teachers eventually found us screaming and crying and took us right back to our school. Ever since then, I've never felt comfortable around these woods anymore, and this was the only one encounter I've had in this wood. Many other unexplainable events has happened in these woods to me, friends, and family. I decided to write about this now and not previously because I was talking to my friend about this and he doesn't remember it too well. He only remembered entering the clearing and being found by the teachers. He says once he entered, he saw something else but can't remember what. I don't know what to do as I have a feeling that something is going to happen, something big, but that could just be me going crazy. This isn't a particularly scary story, but nonetheless, it's true. I don't scare easily since I've had several unexplained things happen to me throughout my life, from the time I was a toddler to the adult I am now. I'm going to tell a story about one of the more recent encounters I had while at work. Now, here's some backstory for you first. I work in a long-term care facility that has slowly been opening all of its units over the last year. During that time, there have been deaths, such as the nature of my job. I have friends who work on different units and they've told me about strange occurrences on the first floor. I hadn't experienced anything down there, but I paid attention to what they were telling me. I'd been patiently waiting for one of the specialized units to open up down there, so I figured I should know what to look or listen for. The day finally comes and I'm working in that specialized unit. It's a night shift, so it's quiet and empty except for one of the other staff who was working with me, and the occasional check-in by security. It's easy to hear security coming though, because the key cards unlocking the doors is quite loud, and the doors are also in sight from the nurse's station. The staff room is inside as well, and the lights are operated by motion detection. I mention this because security had not been on the unit while these strange things happened. My coworker and I were sitting at the computers at the nurse's station, chatting and getting some work done. I always get a weird itch on my skin when I sense something is visiting, and this was one of those times. I look over from the computer out of curiosity and I see the light in the staff room turn on. My coworker sees it and looks up too. She confirms with me that the light has a motion detector. The light stays on for a few minutes and then turns off. Half an hour later, the light turns on again, stays on for a few minutes, and then turns off again. My coworker then starts getting a little nervous. Now, keep in mind, I'm used to this sort of thing, so I thought it was funny that she pretended to be calm. I can sense those things too. A few hours pass, the lights have stayed off, security has come and gone, and all is quiet. I sense my coworker is no longer nervous, and we decide to branch out into different areas. We aren't very far apart, and the areas we've moved to are still close to the nurse's station. My coworker pops in her earbuds, and I continue my work. And then I get that weird itch again, and I wonder if the lights will turn on once more. I giggle at the thought of my coworker coming back because she's nervous. It wasn't the lights this time. Instead, I hear a woman's voice, faint and far down the hall. I brush it off, it's just a voice. Periodically throughout the night, I hear the woman's voice down the hall, and I continue to brush it off. I'm guessing the entity belonging to that voice was becoming impatient, as my entire spine feels cold and itchy. I hear someone yell, "Hey!" in my right ear. I look around, but I know nothing is there. And then the loudest whistle I've ever heard a human make sounds off in that same ear, so loud it makes me jump. I realized there were two visiting. I felt a little disoriented, so I stood up to try and get my bearings. The itch in my back goes away and I start to feel normal again. And the entire time, my coworker has her earbuds in and doesn't hear a thing. The rest of the night remained quiet, and I wondered if whoever it was in my ear was satisfied I heard him and decided to wander off. That's a hard no, but a story for another time. Security comes in for a final check before shift change. He proceeds to tell me the unusual things he's seen on the unit. He tells me he won't go down the hall because he's heard a woman's voice down there. That hall has been empty since opening. Typically, I don't startle too easily. That night, I did feel a little nervous because I've never heard something that loud before. I definitely pay close attention when I'm working in that unit. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my story. Maybe I'll write about more of my experience sometime. Oh, would you please calm down? We haven't even gotten to the maiming yet. Sorry about that, dear listeners. Is it time for a sponsor break already? Well, you're in luck because I've got the perfect one in mind. Tell me, friends, are you tired of those tenacious teenagers running amok in your neighborhood, vandalizing your hard-earned property? How about that one guy who always insists on mowing his lawn at 7:30 on a Saturday morning? Have you tried everything? No, I mean everything. And they keep on coming back? Well, it sounds like it's time for you to call the Scream Team. Voorhees, Kruger & Associates, Killers at Large. Specializing in pest control, extermination, and dreamwalking, they will ensure your neighborhood is peaceful, tranquil, and free of any unwanted pests. Guaranteed. Efficiency is the core of everything they do at Voorhees, Kruger & Associates. With their patented 5-step killing method, you can rest assured knowing that the job you want done will be handled quickly, quietly, and without too much mess. With several different plans to choose from, including dismemberment, disembowelment, dream stalking, and more, no two jobs will ever be done the same way. As they say, variety is the spice of life. Looking for something a little more custom suited to your problem? Then choose Other when selecting your preferred method of extermination and let your creativity run wild. They also offer pest deterrence and relocation packages, but come on, you wouldn't be calling them if that's how you wanted to handle this situation. Let's be honest. Be sure to use coupon code KILLERSAVINGS, all one word, at checkout to get half off your first extermination. The best part about this deal is that you get to choose which half to keep, the top half or the bottom half, or the left or right if you're into that kind of thing. That's Killer Savings at checkout to get half off your first extermination. Voorhees, Kruger & Associates, Killers at Large. Why call the rest when you can call the best? Now, I've got to get back to what I was doing before you rudely interrupted me. Now be gone! You've got a story to finish. Now where were we? London, 1888. It was dark. The moon was bashful that night, drawing deep clouds to cover her face. The cobblestone streets were empty and there was a chill in the air. People lay sleeping in their houses, restful and quiet, unknowing of anything. No babies cried, no dogs howled for their lunar mistress's return. All was still. A woman in a black dress and deep blue cloak broke this eerie quiet. Her gentle footsteps rang through the alleyways, the gentle swoosh of her skirt sent ripples through the puddles of muck and water, and yet not one soul stirred. She glanced casually at the houses. To an onlooker, mere mild interest showed on her face. To those in the know, she was clearly searching, assessing. She had been walking for hours. From the moment the sun rested his head and so his followers rested theirs, she walked the streets. The moon, still hidden, was now high in the sky and beginning her descent. These were dangerous times for a woman to be walking around without a chaperone, whilst ill-advised for a woman to be without one at most times. A recent spate of murders in the area had the city on edge. It was a nasty business by all accounts, and the topic of whispered gossip by many who deemed themselves above such matters. But this woman in black did not care. In an alleyway ahead, she sees a shadow gently shift, its form taking shape as a figure moved carefully and discreetly. She carried on regardless, pretending she had not seen. As she approached, the moon peeked from her whispering veil, and for the briefest of moments, the darkness of the shadow was dissipated. A man stood at the entrance of the alleyway, a metallic glint in his hand. At this moment, he pounced, grabbing her by the neck and dragging her into the now returning darkness of the alley. The moon hid once again, fearful of what she might see. A cry rang out. It echoed through the alleys and side streets, carrying itself through the air so that the people of the area might hear it. A few stirred, some dogs whimpered. The cry was filled with such agony and anguish as would fill even the coldest heart with dread. Similar cries had been called in recent weeks, but this one was different. Deeper, filled with terror and surprise. When the cry had completed its circuit, the stillness was not yet permitted to return. A breeze picked up and rustled through the streets, washing away the moon's safekeeping. A laugh, whispering on the air, quietly worked its way down the pathways. Barely there, naught but a hint, it sent a chill down the spines of those who still remained sleeping and those who awoke. The hounds, silent until now, finally cried their grievances to their goddess.
Welcome back, my darling deviants. Well, tell me, did you enjoy that twisted tale? Of course you did. I knew you had that air about you, that hunger for the horrific and the macabre. So, did we spook you? If not, then file a complaint with our complaint department detailing all accounts of non-spookiness you found in this video, and we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 millennia. Give or take a business eon or two. However, if you've enjoyed what you've just heard this evening, then make sure you leave a like on this video and annihilate that subscribe button. Such a small act of obedience is exactly what we need to put the food on the table around here. There's only so many days we can have refried kidney and toe jam hash before I'm absolutely sick of it. Spoiler alert, that ship sailed long ago. Now, I must bid you adieu. I've many things to take care of, and this outro is eating into my day off. Run along now. Have no fear, we'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday to bring you another terrible tale. Go forth, my ghastly gang, and stay spooky.